Breaking news! What if I told you the Baltimore Ravens may have just landed one of the most overlooked and potentially dangerous defensive weapons in this entire draft? And almost nobody is talking about it the way they should be? This is the kind of move that doesn't make the loudest noise today, but weeks, months, maybe even a full season from now, people will look back and say, that's where it all started. But before I break everything down for you, do me a favor, smash that like button right now if you truly believe this team is building something special for the 2026 season. And I want to see the most optimistic Ravens fans in the comments, so write this down. Ravens are coming back stronger in 2026. Let's see how many of you really believe in this squad. Now stay with me, because what I'm about to show you might completely change the way you see this pick. Now, let's get straight into it. Zion Young arrives in Baltimore with a prototype NFL frame. We're talking about a massive presence at 6 feet 6 inches, 267 pounds, with long 33-inch arms, the kind of physical profile that defensive coordinators absolutely love to work with. This is not just about size, though. The production he showed in his final college season tells a story of real development and upward trajectory. In 2025, he recorded 42 tackles, an impressive 16.5 tackles for loss, and 52 pressures, ranking third in the SEC in that category. What stands out even more is the growth. The jump from 2024 to 2025 wasn't small, it was massive. He essentially tripled his tackles for loss and nearly tripled his sack production. That kind of leap signals a player who is figuring things out, refining his instincts, and learning how to translate his physical tools into real impact on the field. Now, let's be clear about his strengths. Zion Young is, first and foremost, a run defender. That's where he made his biggest impact in college, consistently setting the edge, controlling gaps, and forcing running backs back inside where the rest of the defense can clean things up. And if you've been watching the NFL closely, you already know how important that has become again. The running game is back in a big way, and defenses need players who can handle early downs, not just pass rush specialists who come in on third and long. That's exactly where Young fits into this Ravens defense. He's not being brought in to be a day-one superstar pass rusher. Instead, the expectation is that he develops into a rotational piece early on, someone who can contribute on first and second downs while continuing to build his pass rush arsenal. Because yes, that's the main area where he still needs work. His go-to move is the bull rush, and while it can be effective, he'll need more counters when that initial power doesn't get home. Still, the upside is very real. Evaluations suggest he has the floor of a quality backup and the ceiling of a starting base end in a physical NFL front. And when you look at the environment he's stepping into, that ceiling becomes even more intriguing. He's joining a room that already includes Trey Hendrickson and Mike Green, meaning he won't be forced into immediate pressure. He'll have time to develop, to learn, and to refine his game. And maybe most importantly, he's entering a system that knows how to develop defensive talent. There's a strong belief internally that with the right coaching, particularly from a staff that has shown the ability to elevate young edge rushers, Zion Young could take significant steps forward at the next level. Another key point here is value. He was ranked as the 39th overall prospect, and the Ravens got him at 45. That's what front offices love to call a steal. Baltimore stayed patient, let the board come to them, and ended up addressing a major need in the trenches. Because at the end of the day, this team is still built on a simple philosophy. You win by getting to the quarterback and controlling the line of scrimmage. They considered other options, wide receiver, tight end, but ultimately decided that the value and need along the defensive front were too important to ignore. And when a player like Zion Young falls into your lap, you take him. And continuing from where we left off, the more you analyze this selection, the more you start to understand the bigger picture the Baltimore Ravens are building toward with Zion Young in this defense. Because here's the thing. This isn't just about what he is right now, it's about what he allows the entire defensive unit to become. When you have an edge defender who can consistently set the edge against the run, who plays with discipline and physicality on early downs, it opens up so many possibilities schematically. It gives the defensive coordinator flexibility to disguise coverages, to rely more on too high safety looks, and to trust that the front won't get gashed on the ground. And that's something that really stands out when you go back and evaluate how the Ravens approached this pick. They weren't just looking for flash. They weren't chasing a highlight reel pass rusher who might give you sacks but disappear against the run. They were looking for balance. They were looking for reliability. They were looking for someone who can do the dirty work that doesn't always show up in the box score but wins football games over 4 quarters. Think about the role he's stepping into. Early on, Zion Young is likely going to rotate in, especially in run-heavy situations, where his ability to control the edge becomes immediately valuable. He's going to be asked to force plays back inside, to maintain discipline, and to allow the linebackers and interior defenders to clean things up. That's a critical role in this system, and it's one that he already showed he can handle at a high level in college. But the real excitement comes when you project forward. Because if he can develop even a couple of reliable pass rush counters, if he can build off that bull rush and add more variety to his game, then you're suddenly looking at a true three-down player. And those are incredibly valuable in today's NFL. Guys who don't have to come off the field, who can impact both the run and the pass, who can wear down offensive tackles over the course of a game. And let's not ignore the context of the roster. The Ravens already have players in that edge room who bring pass rush juice. What they needed was someone who could complement that, someone who could bring a different skill set to the table. Zion Young fits that mold perfectly. He's not being asked to carry the load right away, and that's a huge advantage for his development. He can grow at the right pace, refine his technique, and build confidence without the pressure of being the guy from day one. Another interesting layer to this is how the draft board fell. There were other needs, no doubt. Wide receiver was on the radar. Tight end was a possibility. There were even discussions about interior defensive line. But when the Ravens saw how the edge class dropped off after this range, they made a calculated decision. They knew that if they passed on Zion Young here, they might not find a player with this combination of size, production, and upside later on. Meanwhile, they still believe there are quality options at wide receiver, tight end, and defensive tackle in the upcoming rounds. That's classic Ravens draft strategy. Stay disciplined, trust your board, and build through the trenches. And one more thing that should get fans excited, the trajectory. This is a player who got better every single year. The jump he made in 2025 wasn't random, it was the result of development, effort, and understanding the game at a deeper level. That kind of progression is exactly what you want to bet on when you're drafting in this range. And this is where things start to get really interesting for the Baltimore Ravens, because now you're seeing the blueprint of this draft class take shape in real time. They've already made it clear what their priorities are: control the trenches, build physicality, and create a defense that can dictate the pace of the game. With Zion Young now in the building, the Ravens have added a piece that strengthens their identity. But at the same time, it also puts even more pressure on the front office to capitalize on the next rounds. Because as we mentioned, there are still key needs on this roster, and the board is starting to thin out at certain positions. Let's talk about wide receiver for a second. There were names on the board that fans were watching closely, and some of them are already gone. Others are still there, but maybe not for long. That's the gamble Baltimore made. They passed on that position here because they believe value can still be found later. But now, the margin for error gets smaller. If they wait too long, they risk missing out on the tier of receivers who can actually come in and contribute early. At the same time, there's still the interior defensive line. That's another area where depth is needed, and there were players who went off the board shortly before this pick that could have been options. The Ravens clearly felt that taking one at 45 might have been a reach, and that patience could pay off in the third round. That's a calculated risk, just like the one they made at wide receiver. And then there's tight end. This is where things feel a bit more comfortable for Baltimore. The sense is that this position is deep enough that they can wait until day 3 and still land a quality player. That allows them to prioritize more premium positions in the earlier rounds, which is exactly what they've done so far. But bringing it back to Zion Young, because everything connects here, his